The next step in creating our composite image is going to be to bring in those clouds that we shot on a separate location. So to open those up, let's go to File, Scripts, Load Files into Stack. We will select Sky Dark and Sky Light. We'll allow Photoshop to align them. And we'll click OK. Perfect. Now we have our two layers aligned. There's a slight change between them because clouds move, as it would turn out. And I did touch the camera to adjust the exposure between these two images. So as a recap, what I did is I took one image at the correct exposure, exactly how I wanted it. And then I darkened the exposure. Because clouds are so bright and they're white and it was a sunny day, I can take an image at a lower exposure to show a little bit more detail and contrast in the image. And then all I have to do is with this darker layer on top, go to my blend modes, and we're gonna select overlay. Now you can see that that image has added a lot of contrast in the colors and in the luminance. That's a lot too much, so we'll bring the opacity of this layer down quite a bit. And now it just adds a little bit of a pop to the image. This looks great. So we will select both of these layers. Remember, select, hold Shift, select the second layer. We'll click and drag them into our working document. Let's place them both on top, and now we can just exit out of these clouds. Great. So now we've brought our clouds into Photoshop in the document where we want them. What we're going to do next is we're going to turn these two images into a smart object. A smart object is kind of like a group in Photoshop, except for instead of just adding it to a folder within your layers panel, it'll turn it into a separate document that acts as one single layer. So I'll show you how this works. I'll rename this to Sky because a smart object automatically names itself after the top layer when you combine your layers. So I'll select both of these layers by holding Shift and selecting both of them. Then I'll right click and choose Convert to Smart Object. Now you can see that instead of having two layers, I just have one layer. But nothing changed. It doesn't look different. And that's because when I double click this layer, see how I have this symbol on the layer icon now? When I double click it, it'll open as a separate document. And this is really cool because now what I can do is I can make changes to this. So let's say I wanted to bring, you know what, I'll make a super obvious change. I'll go add a new layer by clicking the new layer icon, go to my paintbrush, and I will paint a bright red strip across the sky. There. Now there's 3, so you can see it. If I save this by clicking Control S or going to File, Save, and then go to my document in which this smart object is embedded, I can see those changes have taken place. Using smart objects is super helpful because I can go through and make changes to these layers independently of everything else that's going on here. I could also change this layer as a whole. So if I wanted to transform it, so I'll click Control T, and then I'll bring this in and bring this down. I'm transforming this layer as if it was just one layer. But now when I go into the smart object, this hasn't changed at all. Only the way I'm seeing it as this layer here. I could then go through and make more changes here. So I could add a blue stripe. Select that layer, add a blue stripe here. Click Save. Now when I open it in this document, it is applied onto that image as well. So that's great. I don't want to do any of those changes, so I'll click Control Z until I'm back to where I want to be. Now I'll bring my sky layer to the bottom because we're not quite ready to start working with that. In the next section of videos, we are going to learn about layer masks, which allow you to tell Photoshop which areas of each individual layer you would like to see. We're going to use them to choose between either this image of Krista outside or this image of Krista outside, when we're able to see them with the composition kind of as it will look like with her driving and then with the version of her outside, I think we'll have a better idea of which one we're going to go with.